Things that I wanted to talk about tonight was just a bit of a market update, my synopsis of what we're seeing in 2023 and maybe a little bit of a crystal ball. Reality is that we all know cost of living's gone through the roof. I don't want to sound like our RBA governor that we just have to put rates up, but the reality is rates have to go up in order to curb inflation. So at the moment, the cash rate sits at 3.35. We actually think, along with probably what most of the banks are saying, is that we think the cash rate is probably going to head into the fours before this year is out. So realistically, we've got anywhere between 2 and maybe 4 increases still to go this year. If you consider rates at the moment probably around 5%, the likelihood is by the end of this year, you're going to be paying 6%. So it's creating some really panicked markets, but to be honest, there's a lot of media hype that's actually probably doing the job of the RBA, scaring off people to a certain extent. So for all of the panic discussion around prices are plummeting and the world's coming to an end, if you think about it in your local area, prices haven't really come off that far. And the main reason is because the demand is still there, but the supply is down. So that has actually artificially kept prices up because people still want to buy a property. On the flip side, we all have these huge mortgages and we're still seeing rates going up. Before everyone thinks, wow, how do I afford this? You've got to think bigger picture. Historically, home loan rates on average have been around 7%. We're actually nowhere near that at the moment if we're currently paying 5%. For those younger people who have either just bought or are still thinking of buying, rates feel really high, but rates actually aren't high. You're thinking about rates when we were down at 2%. The scary thing is the people who are on fixed rates coming off over the next year or two, been enjoying paying 2%, but they come off the fixed rate this year, next year, and you're suddenly going to be facing a rate of 6 or 7%. So you're going to be paying 3 times over what you were previously paying. So that's where the panicked thinking is coming from. But again, unemployment is as low as it's ever been. I think it was still at a historic low. Thought process is that unemployment will slightly rise this year. And once we get to a certain threshold, as well as inflation coming down, then in fact the Reserve Bank is probably going to drop rates. But I actually think that's going to spur the property market back on. If you were looking to buy, in particular, an investment property, the window is actually now, is this year. And the reason being is you might still see property prices come back a little bit. But if you think about anyone who's renting and the story that you hear about rental prices going up, it is going through the roof. Most of the property transactions that we're funding for clients are actually investment properties. Very few people are buying owner-occupied properties unless they truly have to upgrade because they've had a third child and they need a bigger house. And to kind of back up my theory here on property prices, if you look across most Melbourne suburbs and even regionally, prices have been pretty steady. And that's actually happening right across the country. So the only state for the last 2 months that actually has still negative growth is in fact Tasmania. But Tassie last year had enormous growth off a very low base. So they're kind of an exception to the rule. So people who have to buy, because let's say they had the third child, need the bigger house, they're still buying those properties, but probably what they're doing is delaying the renovation. Can't afford it now because the builder's costs have gone up and it's gone through the roof. The other impact is with rates having gone up, our borrowing capacity's gone down. Again, that's what's kind of keeping the market tight, but that's why people aren't selling unless they really, really have to. The other thing to bear in mind, which is going to push our market back up, is that the immigration tap's been reopened. So whilst those high density properties are not actually being built, or the rate of those properties being built is reducing, the demand is just continuing to build. So that's why I believe next year, when you see rates potentially dropping, we're going to see property prices go up further again. Don't hold me to it, but that's probably my positive view on it.